The wind actually is making a nice smooth burn. Birch bark. Twig bundle, kinda. More twigs. Larger sticks. That's the power of preparation. If I wasn't prepared, I would have been out of luck. I once had a bowstring made out of hickory that it was almost a full year before I rehydrated it overnight and then used it to start a fire. So that's a very good technique to know. So gather bark when you can and then save it for later if you're in a long-term situation. We hope not, but if you're in a survival situation, why use all your good modern cordage? Use the natural stuffs around you, so if you needed that modern cordage for something else, you'd have it. There's a hickory tree. There it goes. I think that has the makings of an excellent digging stick. Okay, time to cut this down. There's so much more to do with this. I'm gonna cut this branch off so I could use it as a bowstring. Time to trim off some of these little branches. Hickory bark is so strong, it doesn't take a thick diameter to make a usable bow drill bowstring. And that's quite amazing to me. Now it's time to peel. It's already coming off really nice. Oh yeah, I like it. It's coming off quick too. Look at this go. It's fast. Then when we get around the branches, sometimes I just step on the branch and pull the rest. You get leaves and all. And that, my friends, is a very strong bowstring. I probably have 2 bowstrings, maybe 3, but this is good. I'm going for a 3-foot long piece. I'm gonna make it a little bit longer because I have to let it dry, so I have, in case there's splits, I have extra room to cut off once it's done. So first, I'm gonna saw it cleanly, then I'm gonna remove the bark and let it dry. Again, whenever it dries, there could be cracks and that sort of thing, so I want to have a little bit of extra room on there so I can cut out those cracks once it's done drying properly. Hickory is going to make an excellent digging stick. We're getting close. I can feel it. There it is. All right. This is good. Time to get the bark off. Back to the saw blade. Just to get it started. I'm removing the bark so it'll be lighter. The finished product will be lighter. It'll have less moisture in it and it'll perform for me better. Then of course I have to fire harden it in the future. But first things first. I think I got my foothold. There it is. I got it. The rest should go fairly smooth from here. That's it. That's it. Nice. This is the right time of year where bark peels, so I'm probably getting close to the tail end of it because it's a little bit tough to get off here. So I just made it. It's a little tough. Soften it up. Make it easier to remove. Oh, that's a nice thick piece. This ought to help a lot. Oh, this is coming out great. Time for some more pounding. It worked. Take off what I can get off. Finish it up. You never know what's beneath the bark. I suppose you can soften it up that way too. That worked. Of course, I could use my knife and carve off the bark. This is going to make a nice, smooth, clean surface, as opposed to having knife marks where I scratched it and cut into the bark of the wood. If I cut into the wood, it doesn't look as smooth. That was a good one. All right. And that's pretty good. Of course, I'll have to take a little time, clean up these ends here, make it smooth. Might as well do this other one too since I'm at it. I have a hickory branch here, and it's about the size of a pencil, a little bit longer than my arm. So I'm curious to see if this will give me an ember. I've got to remove the bark. And it's amazing how strong hickory is. Hickory has performed for me very well over the years. The key is to remove it carefully enough. Yes, it's strong and robust, but we don't want to ruin it either. Take every little piece that comes. There we go. Get those off. Tie an overhand knot. Twist it in really quickly. Single wrapping because it's fast. That's really fast. It tapers at the bottom. Okay. Time to see how good this is. I'm probably only going to get one wrap out of this one, so that's okay. I'll make it count. I'm going to make my loop. I'm going to adjust the bowstring tension right from the start so I don't have to do it again. That should work. Keep it nice and tight. And tie a knot. Overhand, or half hitch actually. All right. This bowstring should have enough oomph in it to burn in a hole, but it certainly gave me an ember here. Take the ember to the next level. There we go. That's successful. Hickory bowstring, pencil size, amazing. I got the bowstring Saturday, so there's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's 4 days of drying out, so I'm going to increase the chances of it working better by putting it in the water and letting it hydrate for a while. I got my thin little hickory bowstring, and I have a rock to keep it in the water, so I'm going to rehydrate this bowstring. The rock's going to make sure that the string doesn't get taken away by the water. All right, there's the rock. It's time to get the bowstring. It's been about a half hour. So there it is, all nice and moist. A little over a half hour. Now it's time to start a fire with it. Here's the hickory bark cordage. Time to string my bow. Gonna burn in my fireboard. This little bowstring is working really well. There's been times where, well, there's one time where I waited almost a full year before I rehydrated a hickory bowstring and then used it, and it worked. I soaked it overnight. I wanted to really make sure it was hydrated, so I cut a notch. Time for some fire. I'm using the pine bark socket just to show that the hickory bark bowstring is strong. I could have used fatwood, which works. It works very nice, but it's almost like an unfair advantage, so it gets to prove just how good the hickory bowstring is. All right. The wind blew the ember apart and made it fall, so time for another ember. Proving once again how good the hickory bowstring is. There's another ember. So this little bowstring, not only did it make a fire one day, 4 days ago, but 2 embers today. I intend for it to score a fire today. Since the wind's blowing pretty good, it's time to go conservative fashion. I'm picking up the fire tray and the ember with the fireboard. So now I'll let it go into the bundle here. Get all that powder out. The wind actually is making a nice Smooth burn. Birch bark. Twig bundle. Kinda. More twigs. Larger sticks. That's the power of preparation. If I wasn't prepared, I would have been out of luck. Now we should be all right. This really thin bowstring, I think it still has some life in it. The important thing is to keep it moist so it doesn't dry out, and then it gets weaker. So it shows just how important moist bowstrings can be. As I said earlier, I once had a bowstring made out of hickory that it was almost a full year before I rehydrated it overnight and then used it to start a fire. So that's a very good technique to know. So gather bark when you can and then save it for later if you're in a long-term situation. We hope not, but if you're in a survival situation, why use all your good modern cordage? Use the natural stuffs around you, so if you needed that modern cordage for something else, you'd have it. These bugs are pretty rough today, so I'm going to put some hemlock boughs on there so I can make some smoke. That should help discourage some biting flies. I also want to show you something. I took my hickory bark and I wound it up so I could store it for later. Then you wind it up a little bit more this way, wind it around itself, put a kind of a half hitch in there to bundle it up. Now you have a way to store your bark until you need it. Okay, that hickory stick that I sawed off, how do we go from something like this to something like this to make an actual digging stick? This one I beveled this way, and I carved off the bark to make it smooth. I rounded the end. Again, my chisel tip in one direction, so it's kind of straight in line with here. It's about 1 inch in diameter. It's about 3 feet long, almost nose to fingertip. But what we got to do, we got to fire hardness to drive out the moisture. So I have a nice bed of coals here, so I'm going to put it in the coals. I want to drive out the moisture. I don't want to burn it. It's more like baking. Generally, the thought is about maybe 3-4 times do the process, but give it some time to harden up. All right, let's take it out. There's a tip. Sometimes you can shape it a little bit on a rock, but put it back in. We'll drive off the moisture, then we'll have our finished product. All right, that's been cooking for a little while. Let's just tap it off, kind of scrape it a little bit, clean it up. Take a look. There we go. Let's move it away from the fire so I have a little contrast. That's it. Clean it up a little bit, both sides. Well, there it is. There's a digging stick. I cleaned it up with a rock and the back of my knife a little bit, and there's our tip. Looking pretty good.